Hey guys, welcome back to more homeowner association stories. In today's title story, a crazy HOA Karen vandalized my solar panels and destroyed the roof of my property. Let's dive right into the video. And the first one is titled, I lost my job and now I am being sued by my HOA law firm, but the law firm will not accept my payment. So basically, I asked the law firm / collection agency if I could pay before court and I was told yes, as long as the amount is cashier's check or money order. I say okay, I will bring $1,000 by cashier check in person on Friday. The law firm then responds to say, no, the amount due is now $2,000 and we cannot accept the $1,000. The $1,000 is what my lawsuit and all court documents say, but now the total is apparently $1,000 extra and it is $2,000 due. Can they refuse my $1,000, which is the total indicated on the lawsuit in bold print, with attorney fees already included? It clearly indicates fees are already included. I literally tried to pay what they indicated I owe before the actual court date, but now I'm told that $1,000 amount is not unacceptable. I can pay the extra $1,000 if it is proven to be true, but not right now. And right now, I'm able to pay the past due amount listed on the lawsuit. Is this legal for the law firm to refuse the amount they have on the lawsuit on behalf of my HOA, and then refuse my payment for the amount on the lawsuit and now say by email that I owe $1,000 more than the lawsuit says? And a user in the comments said, document this and bring it to the judge at the court. The judge will not be amused that you offered to settle for the full amount and they refused. Comment number 2 said, was there a date that the amount had to be paid by before additional fees could accrue? Or did it mention additional fees at all? By the way, just for future knowledge and for anyone else reading this, if you're in a bad situation where you know you cannot pay your HOA dues, please reach out to the member of your HOA board. I'm on an HOA board, and while we cannot reduce dues, we can choose to postpone any collections or legal referrals. If someone reaches out to us in this kind of situation, we are gonna work with them. In our case, this is largely because we have a good HOA board that truly cares about the neighborhood and our community. But even if we didn't, it's in the best interest of the HOA to avoid situations where a homeowner may be unable to afford to take care of their property, and especially avoid foreclosure or the need to quickly sell their home or something like that. Property selling for lower than the current market price will drive down the value of all nearby properties. And now, thankfully, Ripe Stars, we have an update to the story that reads like this. First of all, thank you to everyone who gave me advice on my original post. You guys really helped me understand my rights and gave me the confidence to stand up for myself. So after getting that email claiming I suddenly owed $2,000 instead of the $1,000 stated in the lawsuit, I did exactly what many of you suggested. I documented everything. I printed out all the email exchanges, the original lawsuit documents showing the $1,000 amount, and even took screenshots of their website where they listed their fees. I showed up to court prepared. I brought 3 copies of everything, one for me, one for the judge, and one for their lawyer. I also brought the $1,000 cashier's check, just like they initially said they would accept. Well, when we got in front of the judge, their lawyer tried to argue that additional fees had accrued. The judge was not having any of it. She asked to see where these additional fees were documented in the original filing, and of course they weren't. The lawyer started stammering about standard procedures and ongoing costs. The judge shut that down real fast. She said, Counselor, you filed a lawsuit for $1,000. Your client cannot arbitrarily double that amount without filing an amended complaint and providing proper documentation. Moreover, attempting to refuse payment for the amount stated in your own filing appears to be an attempt to generate additional fees in bad faith. Then something amazing happened. The judge asked me about my attempts to pay the original amount, and I showed her the email exchange where they first agreed to accept $1,000 and then suddenly refused it and demanded $2,000. And she was not pleased. So the judge ended up ruling that number 1, the law firm had to accept my $1,000 payment as full settlement. Number 2, they had to provide a complete receipt and release of the lien, and they were barred from adding any additional fees related to this case. They also had to file a satisfaction of judgment within 5 business days. But here's the best part, the judge referred the law firm to the State Bar Association for review of their collection practices. She said their attempt to inflate the amount after filing and refusing payment of the stated amount could constitute ethical violations. So then I handed over my cashier's check right there in the courtroom. The lawyer looked like he had swallowed a lemon, but he had to accept it. I got my receipt and within a week I received confirmation that everything was cleared. The whole experience taught me that while HOAs and their lawyers can be intimidating, they are not above the law. Standing up for yourself and keeping good records really does make a difference. By the way, I'm still looking for work, but at least this weight is off my shoulders. Thanks again to everyone who helped me through this. Don't let these predatory practices scare you, just know your rights and fight back. And the next one is titled, HOA Karen vandalizes my solar panels, destroys my roof and claims that I'm stealing her son. And by the way, if you enjoy the HOA stories, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much. So I've always been interested in sustainable living, but it was not until 2019 and a worldwide pandemic that I started to take it a little more seriously. I spent a lot of time thinking about the fact that if something worse was to happen to the world, I wanted to be prepared and be able to sustain myself and especially my family. Being part of an HOA makes that slightly more difficult because it means that anything I want to do causes me to jump through the hoops of the HOA. Who's president I will talk about in just a couple minutes. So I just want to give an example of how doing something simple and sustainable can take so much more effort due to being part of an HOA. So I wanted to have a garden and be able to grow my own food. But well, the HOA bylaws have rules regarding gardens that I had to make sure I was following before I could even begin the process. They had rules about where the garden could be on my property, how large it was allowed to be proportional to the size of my land, and they even had rules about what vegetables and even flowers I'm allowed to plant. All of the information being hard to find in the first place and harder to interpret due to them writing their bylaws in very tough legal terminology. Another thing that took me a while to get done was installing solar panels on my roof. I had no idea there were so many different types and I had to find the best one that also would not interfere with any HOA laws. Lucky for me on this one, or so I thought, the HOA does not mention solar panels. What I learned the hard way was that I'm not great at the do-it-yourself method of installing them. So I had a state-of-the-art solar panel system installed on my roof. It was great and I did not need to pay for electricity anymore. Plus, if a blackout happened or another worldwide problem, this time involving power, I would be set. Now, to finally introduce the other people in this story, Karen. If you couldn't tell, I was trying to put off describing her because it's not that easy for me to describe how totally crazy she is. She has had several power trips in the past, fueled by her position of power. At one point, she was very patriotic and just insisted that every home needed to have an American flag on it. If not, she was trying to put them up herself and fine anybody who was not complying with this, going as far as to think anybody who did not want a flag must be a terrorist or something. The latest obsession, and one that has been for a while, is her focus on sunlight. And I mean, yes, the sun is important, but she seems to be doing her research from the back of a cereal box because she is just wrong about everything. She has complained about the existence of trees in the neighborhood and was trying to get something passed to get rid of them all. She claimed that the shade from trees was stealing the sun, that she needed the sun in order to live and the trees and plants wanted to take all of it away from people. And yes, it circled back to her thinking my garden was using too much sun. Yeah, that is what she said. Now, I found out the hard way from talking to her what her issue with sunlight all of a sudden was. And keep in mind, this conversation happened before I got the solar panels. So she was talking about my garden in this instance. Karen, your plants are using all of the sunlight. Me, what? Karen, your little garden thing over there. The plants are absorbing all of the sun. Don't you know that other people need it too? Me, and they are getting it. The sun is everywhere. Karen, no, there's only so much sun and you're taking it away from me and everybody else. Me, no, the sun is all over the place. Plants don't pull in the sun, that just makes no sense. Karen, that just shows how uneducated you really are. I read an article and it said that the sun is not eternal and won't last forever. The sun is a finite resource and once we use it all, then we are all gonna die. We only get so much sun for our neighborhood and you're trying to steal it all. Me, I don't know what you read, but the sun is not finite and yes, eventually there will be no more sun in like a million and millions of years when it burns out, but it's not limited in how much we have. When the sun is out, it's everywhere at once. There's not a certain amount that each neighborhood gets. Karen did not believe me and instead decided to call me uneducated again. I really think she read something talking about how one day way, the sun will go out and totally understood it wrong to think that we could overuse it and burn it out like a light bulb. And well, from there came up with her own messed up conclusions. After I got my solar panels though, things got even worse. It was summer and it was hot outside, like the kind of heat nobody should be doing any work outside or they would risk heat stroke. I had gone to the movies with my family to try and keep cool in a nice dark theater for a couple hours. We saw an afternoon movie, so when we got home it was still sunny out and still very hot. On my roof was none other than Karen with gardening tools. Superficially, my gardening tools, but that was the least of my concern at the moment. She was slowly hacking away at my solar panels with a spade. I was amazed that it was powerful enough to do any damage, but she had destroyed a couple of panels already. She was ripping pieces off and throwing them off of the roof. I wanted my family nowhere near this crazy lady. The last thing I wanted was for her to throw the tools at them or something, so I approached her alone, and when I got closer I could hear that she was talking to herself, mumbling about the panels stealing her son and that the neighborhood would go into an ice age because of it. The closer I got, the more damage I could see that she was actually doing to my panels. There was exposed wiring that she had ripped out, and panels that she couldn't remove seemed to have been shattered. She did not even notice that I was there and just kept mumbling to herself. I didn't know what to do, but my instincts had me pulling out my phone as soon as I got home and saw her up there. I tried talking to her to see if I could de-escalate the situation on my own. Looking back, I wish I had called the police sooner and avoided trying to speak to her in the first place. In my weak defense, I was very upset about seeing her destroying everything and my emotions won out over logic. Me, Karen, what are you doing on my roof? Get down from there. Karen, you're trying to steal the sun from me. Me, what are you talking about? They just use the sun that touches them to power my house. Karen, liar. I looked into these things and I found they sap all of the sun and the warmth. You want everybody else to freeze to death and take the sun for yourself. You want to steal the sun away from me. Me, I'm recording all of this, you know. The more you destroy, the more you're going to have to pay me back to reinstall them. You're literally doing thousands of dollars of damage onto my roof. Look, you're even destroying the actual roof under the panels. Karen, you just want to steal my sun away from me. These panels are making my flowers wilt and taking away my sunbathing. I need the sun to live and you wanna hoard it for yourself. You need to release the sun from these things and let the world have it back. Me, get off of my roof now. You have no right to be on my property and especially not on my house. Karen, you're gonna get fined for these things. I will fine you for every single regulation we have. You cannot steal community resources and you cannot yell at the president. I was getting nowhere with Karen and realized that she might be more unhinged than just a regular Karen, so I finally called the police because she was not looking to be getting off of my roof anytime soon. The more she destroyed, the more likely she was gonna end up hurting herself. The police came and she kept on with her stories. She told them that she was doing HOA work and they could not stop her. The police can clearly see that there's something wrong with her, but if it is mental or drugs, it's just impossible to know. However, they were able to get her off of my roof and into custody, and once she was gone, I was able to go up there myself and see the true amount of damage she had done. The entire system was wrecked and it would need to be fully removed and then reinstalled. I had insurance on it, but that was only for natural disasters and things like that, not for being smashed by a crazy person. Speaking of Karen, by the way, once she was taken into custody, they were able to try and work out if she was on anything. She was going under arrest for destruction of property and was not going to be released until they knew what was actually going on with her. From what I heard, she had a psyche evaluation and it was found that while she was on no drugs, she was clearly having a mental health episode. She was suffering from a delusional disorder that stress and her obsession with the sun made even worse. In her mind, the things she was saying were true and that I was stealing the sun away from her with my solar panels. She was not stable enough to be released, so she was moved into a hospital to receive treatment. I found out about the diagnosis and the fact that she was now in a mental hospital due to my lawyer. I had hired one because in addition to her getting arrested, I wanted to file a lawsuit against her in order to get the money to get my solar panels fixed. The lawyer was able to get the information about her condition and the fact that she was going to be in the hospital for an unknown amount of time. Apparently, the issues from what I learned with people with delusions is that they also tend to not want to take their medication. They think the world and doctors are out to get them, and due to her state, I would not be able to sue her directly. Instead, I was going to turn all of my attention onto suing the HOA itself. Since she was the president and doing so in her mind on behalf of the HOA, I was able to turn my lawsuit for the money back onto them. Of course they were trying to defend that, since Karen did this of her own free will, that they should not be responsible for what happens. Things started to fall apart for them when the things that were going on behind closed doors finally all came to light. So then I learned the full story of what was going on with Karen from my lawyer, but from the HOA I learned that they had known the entire time. Karen had apparently told several of the other board members about her issues with the solar panels and told them that she was gonna remove them. Not a single person on the board decided to try and stop her or talk her out of doing so. So yeah, it was clear that she was not stable, but they allowed her to continue keeping her position of power despite not being mentally sound enough to handle it. In fact, the stress of being the HOA president may have contributed to her finally going over the edge into full-on crazy mode. The HOA did not want to pay me and things ended up going to court, with the HOA insisting that Karen alone should be to blame for what happened. However, they knew perfectly well that if I tried to sue Karen for the money, I would not be able to get anything. She probably would not even be stable enough to stand in front of a judge and then get away with it for just being totally crazy. This was when the HOA bylaws finally came into play in my favor for once. It was found in the bylaws that the HOA has its own set of responsibilities. They had broken those in two totally separate ways. The first being that the board was self-regulating, and if one member was starting to act in a way that was not beneficial to the community, a hearing would happen to determine if their position should be terminated. That should have happened with Karen, but it never did, and instead they tried to hide it. The second thing is that if any property was wrongfully damaged due to a direct result from the HOA's interference, it would be their responsibility. That alone was enough for me to get the money that I needed from the HOA in order to fix my roof and get new solar panels installed. I had no idea that the list of bylaw rules included rules that the HOA board had to follow. My guess is that most people don't know about that and the HOAs want to keep it that way. They got a ton of rules to follow and responsibilities they needed to fulfill, or else they could get sued by the homeowners. Speaking of which, they were in the middle of breaking another one of their own rules because they had never bothered to adjust the HOA board once Karen was hospitalized. It was clear that she was going to need long-term care and would no longer be able to run things. They were supposed to hold an HOA meeting where everybody could discuss things and ultimately vote for the proposed change in the board. And you can be sure that the gossip went around like crazy and the residents were not happy that the board knew Karen was mentally ill and losing it and did not try to remove her from any position of power over people. The meeting did end up happening and I used the video I took to provide evidence that Karen was not stable and should not be on the board. In fact, she should have been removed long ago when she was clearly acting off. People saw the video and could not believe what they were seeing and were furious that the board didn't do anything about Karen. It was months later, and on paper she was still the HOA president. I made a point that Karen poses a danger to everybody as long as she retains the title of power. She could have, in theory, been released at any point from the hospital, come back and still been president. The HOA board was forced with the pressure of the people to finally remove her. The video also got people interested in the fact that I had solar panels asking questions about the benefits. If Karen was there, she would have been losing it, knowing that more people were now interested in getting solar panels and stealing her son away from her. Well, the HOA was not off the hook as everybody was still angry with them and felt that they were part of the problem. Instead of a new president being appointed, there was a petition to get rid of the HOA fully. And well, what can I say? It worked and the HOA got dissolved. I don't want to talk too much down about Karen because at the end of the day, she is mentally ill and looking back, I wish I knew and did not speak to her so harshly. I have no sympathy for the rest of the HOA and I am glad that I was able to get the money from them in the lawsuit. Plus, with the HOA gone, I can do more self-sustaining things that I was not able to do under their rules, such as a larger and more diverse garden and even chickens. Before we end the video, we have one last story from r/petty revenge titled "You want me to cut down my trees? No thanks, enjoy the view of the leaves." So our older neighbor sold his home to a middle-aged couple and within the first day they managed to piss everyone off. For context, they left a boat trailer in a dangerous spot in the road despite warnings from neighbors, and having 2 driveways and a spot where a trailer could go, left one dog outside all night to bark at every new thing for a month, let their other dog poop on everyone's front lawns and let it chase after people in their own yards. After thoroughly pissing everyone off, as I said, they decided to ask us to cut down all the trees and bushes along our fence line because the trees were apparently blocking their view. They live at the bottom of a hill, the only view they have is the rest of the hill and other people's houses. When we told them no, they asked us if we could at least trim the branches down more so they could see through them, and then walked away. Well, let me tell you, we have not trimmed a single thing in months, there's no power lines to worry about in the area either, and everything is within our fence line. We even let the area beside the patio grow up some so they absolutely have no view besides leaves anymore. We actually like it better because it saves us the cost of a privacy fence we were planning to install. So, moral of the story, be a dick as soon as you move in and expect people to cater to your needs? Nah, enjoy a nice view of leaves from your back porch. Also ETA, we have cameras and we were regularly trimming them before they asked us to cut the trees. Please check out my podcast for exclusive content and I will see you again tomorrow.